Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I'm a second career registered nurse focused in the areas of advanced illnesses, typically those that would qualify for either palliative care or hospice care. Those are two separate types of services. I'm also a certified end-of-life doula through the International Doula Life Movement, an avid writer, having published well over 500 healthcare articles, an avid book author and self-publisher, having published 21 books for hospice nurses. Many are used nationwide by different hospice agencies for orientation and training. 22 books for caregivers, with a 23rd currently in the works. 4 books for holistic nurses, one of which is used by Marie Peppers for her remote nurse training program for LPNs and RNs to be able to work from home, and 6 books for my fellow end-of-life doulas. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to visit. In this channel, we talk about issues related to death and dying. After all, we are all going to die. Wouldn't it be better if we knew what that process looked like, what to expect, how to make life easier and better during that process without waiting to the last minute and then like rushing around like a chicken with our heads cut off, trying to make things work good when it rarely does. If these are topics of interest to you, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification below. I try to publish videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Videos for my fellow hospice nurses, holistic nurses, end-of-life doulas, patients, caregivers, family members. Occasionally, there'll be a gardening update or a house project update mixed in. The topic for today's video is going to be multiple, but mainly, let's say you're like me. I'm a book author. I'm self-publisher. I do my own book covers. I do my own writing, my editing, etc. What do you do if you don't have somebody to review your book and let you know what changes need to be made? How can you be aware of problems, even if they're minor? Like one of the persons, I am so much looking forward to Angie Martin's next book. I read her book and I'm just glancing. I should have had it more handy, but her book, oh my word, I'm sorry, my short-term memory went like this. The Child in the Elevator, I believe, is the title. Angie, I am so sorry if I got the title wrong. Um, but I pointed out to her in a loving way that in the opening section where it gives key dates and timelines for her beautiful and amazing story, there was a math issue, and it shouldn't detract from the main story. But I'm autistic. I mentioned to people who watch this before, I'm beautifully broken, I'm autistic. So sometimes things stand out. And so I pointed this out to her and she shared it was missed in editing. So the topic for today's video, because that's what I'm running into as a self-author, editor, self-publisher on Amazon KDP. How do you avoid making mistakes like that? Because I make mistakes too. I'm so thankful for one of my book readers who, in my, pardon me, she had edition 1 of this book. This is now the 3rd edition. In fact, oops, oh my, oh my, I grabbed the 2nd edition. This is the 3rd edition. And so in the 1st edition that she had, she caught that when I wrote about negative wording, that there were 2 sentences that were worded positively. And she was absolutely correct to call me out. Not only did I fix that for the 2nd edition and continued in the 3rd, but I said, pick any book of mine, any book, and I will send you an author copy of that book as my thanks. But how do you avoid that? So that's going to be the topic of today's video, that there's a tool, and I'm going to show you what I did as I'm preparing for my latest book. Oops, let me get my picture out of the way. The Hospice Journey Handbook. There we go. The Hospice Journey Handbook, your complete guide through the hospice experience. Yes, my short-term memory is that horrible that even though I'm the author, I have to go and double check. But I would like to show you for the topic, there are tools out there as to how do you catch mistakes. And before we go to that topic, I want to ask you the question, what are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? So today is, I believe it's today, is the honorary birthday for Charlie Kirk. And I'm bringing this up, by the way, because I believe that we all need to work on building resilience. We're not born with full resilience. We're born with a measure. Some people may feel they're born with none. Well, this is something that you could work on. I've been working on it for years so that when different tragedies and different losses happen in my life, whether they're very small but still impactful, or large, which is definitely impactful, I have the opportunity to bounce back up sooner than if I had no resilience at all. I believe there are 3 pillars for that. One of them is daily gratitude checks. What are you grateful for? So I am grateful for the impact, even though I never knew him personally. I'm grateful for Charlie Kirk. He was not a perfect person. I'm not. He was a broken individual just like me. But he proved that somebody who is broken can still boldly follow Christ Jesus. And I don't say that to preach to you. He's a person I admire. I don't put him on a pedestal. I believe that for me as a follower of Christ Jesus, I follow Jesus. I don't follow Charlie Kirk. I don't follow other people I admire. I follow Christ Jesus to the best of my abilities. But so did Charlie. So I'm grateful for Charlie Kirk. I'm grateful for Dr. Andy Arari, if I'm not mispronouncing his last name. I became aware of Dr. Andy, I guess it was late November, early December of last year, when he gave me an endorsement for the second hospice book I wrote. Maybe it was the third, Mastering Hospice Eligibility. Here's an excellent resource for any hospice admission team. Peter Abraham, BSN RN, provides a well-organized framework to ensure a I always not a fan of this word, but it's his, succinct, thorough, and complete review of the necessary assessment and steps to admit to hospice. All other hospice IG team members, especially the medical director, will also find this book helpful. I look forward to reading Peter's other books on hospice. And over the last year, Andy and I have kept in touch since he has gave me that beautiful endorsement that took that book that was in the top 10 and made it in the top 2 to 3, depending on the month, for my books that sell. My number 1 book continues to be this book here, which was the very first book I wrote for hospice nurses. So Andy, back in August of this year, maybe it was, I apologize, again, my short-term memory. This is why I take notes. My fellow hospice nurses, don't rely on memory. Look at your EMR. Yes, August 12th. I just wanted to double check. But Andy and I were talking. It started out like I'm having issues in Madison County, Kentucky, educating people on palliative care, in part because the providers, while doing a wonderful job at what they're doing, are not doing authentic palliative care. Authentic palliative care is symptom burden only driven. Only symptom burden. Stop. Hard stop. If you add any disclaimers, it is not authentic palliative care. Yes, I'm passionate about it. But a lot of them out there are going diagnostic specific. Oh, it has to be a cancer diagnosis. And then they're throwing in a prognosis. It has to be cancer, life limiting. What? It's hospice. Even if you say it could be a 2-year journey. I'm sorry, it's a passionate topic of mine. So we were talking about that, and Dr. Andy mentioned, and that's why I have him as part of the dedication of this book. Dr. Andy, there needs to be a guide out there to help families understand what, not only to get on the hospice sooner than later. By the way, if you're watching this and you're not involved in hospice, and hospice is a distant dream for you, and I'm not saying that it should, where it should be is on your map. Studies have shown, if you have lung cancer, for example, if you start hospice as early as humanly possible, we're talking about the 6 to 9 month mark. They'll say 6 months, but there's people like me that would fight to have you on at 9, even though you might not be 6 yet. Studies have shown that you start at the 6 month mark, you might, not a promise, might live an additional 2.7 months. Close to 3 additional months because of the excellent support hospice provides on average. Not every agency is a wonderful agency. Not every agency is a horrible. There's a mix. I believe there's more good than bad ones. But while there's that truth of different studies out there, that depending on this diagnosis or that diagnosis, if you start hospice at the 6 month mark or sooner, if the hospice will be work with you, that you live longer. There's also the brutal reality check that if you're doing hospice at home, we're not there 24/7 holding your hand. And that while you can call hospice 24/7, if you say, I need a nurse to come by because my husband, who hasn't had a bowel movement in the past several days, now had an explosion, I need somebody now, it's not going to be an immediate thing. Not saying they won't come out. I know we're deviating from the gratitude part, but that's part of why, Dr. Andy's saying we need a book like this. Can I write one? So I've been working on writing this out. I have a previous video you may have seen that, like, I'll do a bullet point outline, not in any order. In fact, I was sharing with one of my virtual, real life, but virtual friends I've not met her, Amber, fellow International Life Movement graduate, fellow Christian, follower of Christ, with a very strong faith, which I so appreciate. I'm trying to encourage her to write a book about her journey in helping people through death and dying. And so it is like you wake up. I'm gonna just start bullet pointing, whether it's on a book or Todoist or Notion.so or um, whatever you use, start bullet pointing the ideas. And then as you have the opportunity to write, I'm going to just pick this one word to expand on, or this one sentence or fragment, and you start writing bits and pieces, and then you could start putting them together in a logical order. So I've been writing. Now we got into the gratitude part. We are getting into, I'm grateful for Dr. Andy. I'm sorry if that's a little bit convoluted, but like, okay, you're writing. And so I wrote, now this is just the outline. There's 18 chapters, 3 appendices, multiple pages of references, and every chapter from the introduction to the conclusion is illustrated. Uh, I try to do as appropriate as I can. Let me just move my mug, so to speak. So in here, the hospice path, yes, this is my work. That's either good or bad. I tried to make this as simple as possible, that like when you come in, how do you leave? And granted, anyway, before I belabor the point, but I went and I wrote the different key points. And so I have this written. And by the way, getting back to a rabbit trail gratitude point, I went for a walk with my wife, and we took our 2 puppies, and she's saying, am I going to have Dr. Andy or somebody else review the book? And I cannot, words can never express, Dr. Andy, if you're watching this video, words cannot express how much I appreciate you. I'm thankful for you. Dr. Andy is a fellow author. He is a strong advocate for hospice and palliative care, but I have to deal with the reality that Dr. Andy is a busy person. And if I send him the PDF version of this book, I don't know when I would get the answers back. I don't know. And I'm not in a financial position to pay Dr. Andy. I appreciate him. But, and even though books are how I am able, my book royalties allow me to operate Compassion Crossing LLC, not the website. I'm so thankful for Jeffrey, the owner of DynamicNet.net, who hosts the site for right now, just working with me. I am paying for hosting, but I'm not paying what I should be paying according to their plans. He gave me a year of grace. So next year we'll see where we're at with that grace period. But those book royalties allow me to do sliding scale for Compassion Crossing LLC. Those book royalties, I've helped so many people over the years at no charge remotely. I still remember, and I'm not going to name names, there was an adult daughter in India that I helped for, I think in a year and a half. There's a lady in New York that I've been helping. I think right now we're just shy over the year mark. I helped an Ohio family for a 2.5 week period of time earlier this year. A lot of that, I should say, all of my remote work to date has been for free on the sliding scale basis, in part because of the book royalties. And so everything's a trade-off. So if I were to take money, Dr. Andy, I'll pay you to review this book promptly. It would take away from my ability to do that work. And as much as I appreciate Dr. Andy, I have to look at for other means, which is going to be the topic for today's video. And I know, a side note, I know how many minutes are we in and we still don't have the meat of this. We're getting there. I appreciate your patience. But my wife, I'm sharing, this could be several months, and I'd rather get the information out there sooner than later. And a lesson to all of you, this is multifactorial. I'm an educator at heart. I need to get certified in order to be a doula. I need another degree in order to do this. I need further education to do that. I'm not saying no to any of that. But get out there, make mistakes, learn from the mistakes, and grow. If I would have, my very first book, if I would have waited on this until it was perfect, till I didn't have those two sentences that were worded positively that should have been negative, yes, it would have been a better book. Yes, I wouldn't have sent that person a free book, but I actually, it paid off because she not only read the free book I sent her, she became a completionist. I have to get all of Peter's books. I didn't intend that to happen. I'm grateful. But get out there and publish. So here's what I did. And let me go, before I go too far, let me come back out here for a moment. Oh, bad part for where things see. This is the book cover, by the way, just to show you that briefly. I do book covers typically at the beginning. That's the Kindle version of the book cover. And now let's get into the heart of it. I've mentioned Perplexity in the past. I will give a link in the description below. I strongly recommend the Pro version. If you use the affiliate link, you will not pay anything extra at all. What you do is you grant me an extra period of time. I think it's a month where I don't have to pay. You're gifting me the equivalent of a free month on Perplexity if you get it. So what I ended up doing is I do all my work, my books for right now. This may change down the road, but for now, I've been using Microsoft Word. When I first started, it was Microsoft Word for Microsoft Windows. When my PC died late last year, I switched over to Microsoft Word for Apple, my MacBook Air. And so I just export in PDF format, and then I upload the PDF format here. And in terms of naming conventions, for those that are curious, I will include the date of the work, that it's an ebook or paperback or hardcover. As an FYI, depending on your book format and how you do the margins and the gutter and everything else, you could actually use your paperback source for hardcover instead of having 3 different manuscripts. Just as a tidbit, I'll include the trim size and the title. So I uploaded the PDF version. These rest of the things here are sources that Perplexity came up with. But here's my prompt. That's my prompt. I start off with, what's this discussion going to be about? The reason that I do that, which by the way, I don't remember 100% of the time, but I've tried to train myself, put in a sentence, and then a couple, return or two, put in a sentence, what is this going to be about? Because the catch is I would start off with a question, like what is this, or what is that, or can you do this for me? And then when you later go back to try to find what you asked it to do, maybe to refine it or to duplicate what you did, or the concept thereof, it's hard to find. So I've learned by naming what the prompt, that's what this is, by naming the prompt, when I go back later, I could find the prompt. So I put in, as a book author or an article writer, whatever, you should know, who are you writing to? What's your target audience? So my target audience is patients themselves, family members, caregivers, and I do put in varying healthcare literacy. Even though I put in reading level ninth grade reading level for healthcare literacy is different than ninth grade reading level for, let's say, fictional work, at least in my mind. I'm not saying I'm right. And then I said, these are the goals of the book. So when Dr. Andy and I were talking, I'm thinking to myself, not just taking the bullet points from him, out of all, like his bullet points, my bullet, because I added stuff. I added an entire chapter on making the most out of respite, which wasn't even discussed. I added a chapter on advocacy, which wasn't discussed. And I don't bring this up that Andy should have, and I should have discussed everything in that first phone call. I'm just bringing that up, that if you're working through things, part of being an author, a creative person, is asking yourself, does this need anything else? What do I do to meet this? And then and how do you answer those questions? By having goals. So the goals for this book, help readers understand what the complete journey of hospice is like, from the referral to the admission or not admission, to recertification, which is, can they stay on hospice, to discharges, to death, to empower the readers to make informed decisions. That is always what I desire. Anytime that I interact from any perspective, my desire is to encourage, uplift, to help other people bloom. And how do you do that if they can't know what to do? Do I do A or B or C? So I want to help them to make informed decisions so they could advocate properly, to build confidence. I cannot tell you how many families that I've worked with over the years that when they start hospice, there is that, sometimes a day, sometimes even a month long, did I do the right thing? Did we start too early? Should we have waited? Isn't there one more clinical trial or something else? So I want the families to know that when they start hospice early, that it's to everyone's benefit. And there are scientific studies out there that proves that, and show that reality of hospice versus the sales language. And this is the point Dr. and Andy and I are so keen on. because there are, I don't, I always don't know how to word things. You might say, Peter, you're an author. I'm also an INFJ, Myers-Briggs INFJ, and that's one of my struggles. There has to be a better way to word this. There has to be a better way to communicate this. And so I would struggle. I still remember working with several hospice liaisons. Those are the typical marketers of hospice. A Sarah Care Hospice, both when they were owned by Golden Living and then by Amedisys. Grain Hospice, well, they were owned by Abode Health, and then when they were owned by Bright Spring Health Services. Lifesong Hospice, owned by Country Meadows, and also talking to other family members, the hospice and community care. All my hospice experiences are disclaimers up in PA. But even down here in Kentucky, just hearing the sales language that's used. And it is disheartening because I have had families. I still remember my one that was such, I fought back. The hospice liaison promised a family that I would be at their house they guaranteed the afternoon. In fact, they were guaranteed he'll be there. I think I think they said 2 o'clock. He'll be there at 2. And I still remember getting a call from the director of clinical operations, the chief honcho. Peter, don't you go there before 9 o'clock. The liaison told them in the afternoon, even 12 noon would be pushing it. You got to go there later. And I'm like, excuse me. The liaison shouldn't be making. Most of them are women. There are males like Jason. I don't want to say his last name because I might mispronounce. There are male liaison. There are female liaison. They shouldn't have made promises that they personally aren't keeping. And just as a word of warning to any hospice professional, any professional out there, if you are not the one delivering the promise, if you are not the one who will deliver the promise, please do not make promises unless you've checked with the person who actually does the delivery of the promise, the person who makes it happen, if they're capable of keeping it. Wow, are you kidding me? And I remember telling this person, the patient in question lived in Red Lion, Pennsylvania. Why on earth would I skip? I was seeing several patients in Red Lion. Why would I go to see my other patients in Red Lion, skip them, go all over the place, and work my way back to Red Lion? And then, I'm not a rubber band. I'm a human being. That's infuriating. And I said to my boss, I said to the clinical director, as professionally, politely as I can, I said, number one, I did not make that promise. Number two, I've been assigned the case manager. Number three, you already know me. Now, at the time, I did not know I was autistic, so neither of us knew that part. But like I said, I am not a rubber band. I am not going to be jumping all over the map to keep a promise that no one checked on me. Sorry, no. I'll do my best to see my other patients in Red Lion first, even if I'm zigzagging to a degree, but I'm not going to go completely out of the area to come back to go out of the area again. Part of the reason I have a book written. Sorry, I'm just trying to see how close I can find it. Yay, for quickly found. Time management for hospice nurses, specifically focusing on those in rural practice where I cut my teeth, for lack of better words, where I learned the majority of everything. Is the brutal reality, and this is in this book, it's not mimicking this book, but the reality is that we have, some days I was seeing 8 patients. eight rural patients. Now, this is not like the mail delivery where they live right, like you're going like a mail truck here, 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 here. And they're not in a facility. These are at home private patients. Some people, they're living in a trailer park, or they might be in an apartment on a crowded street, or they might be in a home that's in farmland territory. 8 patients, and it's supposed to be an 8-hour day. So those of us with wisdom who advocate for ourselves, and if you're a fellow hospice nurse, I encourage you, implore you that if you don't want to burn out yourself, you have to stand up for yourself. I stood up for myself. I called the family and I said, I'm sorry that promises were made that I cannot deliver because I didn't make the promise. I said, I have patients that are in your neck of the woods. I'm going to see them first. Then I'm coming to your place. And here's the catch. They were told, late afternoon, shoot for 2 o'clock, maybe 1 o'clock at the earliest. I'm telling them I'm going to be there. Some days it might be 9 because I only have one other patient in red line. Some days it might be 10 or 11. It's not an appointment. It is not an appointment, and I am not going there. And those hospice nurses that have thicker skins, that know that if you don't want to burn out, you stand up for yourself. You're not just advocating for your patient, you advocate for yourself. So part of this book is, okay, where does everybody live in the territory that I'm case managing? And how do I go from A to Z, so to speak, not alphabetically, but how do I do this geographically where I'm not a rubber band, where I could spend quality time with each and every patient and try not to have 8 when I can? And how do I do that? And some people, so on a phrase, there are nurses out there, they don't need this book. They've been doing it. And that, by the way, this book is not just about that one topic. It goes over other areas of how do you manage your time successfully and in reality. But liaisons out there will make promises to the family, and they're not necessarily intending to deceive. I want to make that very clear. I'm not saying they're intended to lie. I'm going to be blunt. They're not liars, but a lot of them are paid by commission. They get bonuses. So a lot of them are pressured in one way, shape, or form to get us patients, increase our census. Sometimes they're hospice agencies that put so much pressure on the liaison that the liaison doesn't know what to say. So they start, this family says, I need this and I need that and I need this and that, and they start making promises. Sorry. So show the reality of hospice. So here this is what I'm asking AI to do. Please read this book's final draft. Please let me know if the book reads the goals, including the 9th grade reading level, and to what degree it should benefit the target audience. The other thing that I'm asking it for, and this is what my wife wanted me to, could Dr. Andy or another person read it for me, is any inconsistencies. And even what was that? What does that mean? What does inconsistency means? Well, let's deal with benefit periods. Hospice behind the scenes, they say 6 months or less, and it's not that you have to die within that period of time. 6 months, 90 days, 90 days, 3 months, 3 months is your 6, and then an unlimited number of 60 days after that with defined periods as long as they meet criteria, the eligibility. Well, if some places you write 90 days, in another places you write 30, in some places you write 60 days, in another place you write 2 months, it's not technically wrong, but if you're trying to stick to, let's say, the literacy level and the reading level, it can create issues. It can have them pause. And I'd rather have things flow. Or maybe maybe I unintentionally made a misrepresentation by wording. Something was just inconsistency. And then the other thing that I wanted to know is I had 4 pages of references already existing in the book. Should I use any others? Should I use any others to just add value? My whole goal for this book is adding value to the reader. So it went through and it came back. And I really love the feedback, that I achieved. And it'll give, it's wow, nice. And talk about like uplifting in terms of like that made me feel good. By the way, another plug for Angie Martin. Angie Martin is a fellow book author. I mentioned about, I think it's The Child in the Elevator. Again, I apologize, Andy, if I got the title wrong. But she's coming up with another book, this one geared towards children. But I told her that I am so excited based on the title, the book cover, and the concept of the book. I'm 62. I want to get it. The moment it hits Amazon, she's another self-publisher. I want to read that book, Angie Martin. I'm just so excited. Yes, Angie, you made my day. She said I made her day commenting on her Facebook post that this is going to be coming out in the near future. It's like, no, you made my day, because I love reading and I love because Angie's so good at taking her real life experiences and interweaving them into transformation. Um, Angie, I so appreciate you. And Amber, by the way, if you're watching this too, this is part of why I want you to write your book, because you have a transformational message to tell others, covering so many points that what you would share is such a blessing to others. And I would be I can't say I'd be the first person to buy the book because passage of time and so on, but I know I would be getting the book. And I'd probably go for the hardcover versus the paperback just because I would want it to last if you did the hardcover format. But going through, achieved. I really appreciate this. I wasn't counting on the outcome, especially achieved. Now, here's where I really, 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 I desperately needed this. I desperately needed this. Part of the reason, and I'm never going to be Barbara Carnes, I cannot replace her, but part of the benefit of Barbara Carnes' books that I endorse there's only one book that she wrote where I have trouble with a couple sentences, but the overwhelming majority of her work is beyond gold, beyond platinum, silver. Part of the reason that her work does so well, and I'm not trying to ever mimic her work, is she's writing at the 5th grade reading level, sometimes lower, and hers are literally pamphlets. So the print version of this book is 225 pages. Most of her books are 10 might be pushing it, 15 might be pushing it. It's literally a pamphlet. But I am trying to do the reading level, not as low as the 5th grade. And so here it was like, wow, your introduction was and I don't know how you get to 8.7, but introduction met the 9th grade reading level, but the chapter 1 was approaching college level. Eek, that needed change. It gave the strength. And I do have a comprehensive glossary, by the way. Effective formatting, but like, wow. And then it told me, how do I make it better? Be under 18 words, watch my clauses, watch the terminology, target the words. And then it gave some examples. Like in hospice, most of you, if you're a hospice nurse, a social worker, or a liaison, and by the way, liaisons, I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm not trying to pick on you. A lot of you're under as much pressure as the nurses, the aides, and everyone else. And if I have to give um, praise, kudos, again, I struggle sometimes with adjectives, adverbs to use. The CNAs have it the absolute hardest. Sometimes they're called home health attendants. They have it the absolute hardest. I mentioned like eight patients in a day. Sometimes CNAs will have 16 or 18 in it. Yes, in a day. In a day. Every one of us in hospice have it hard. The CNAs have it the hardest. And granted, I'm biased when I say I think the nurses are next, and most liaisons, I should say most, a lot of liaisons, more and more are LPNs or RNs. They have it hard too, because they're expected to make it rain when it's a drought, as if, yeah, magic happens. And I do believe in the power of prayer. I don't believe in magic, but God's not a vending machine either. So what do? There's a lot of pressure. So, but fellow hospice professionals, you'll learn, you may recognize this. We will usually say if the illness follows its usual course, if the illness or disease follows its normal course. Those are those are words that we typically use. And so it's recommending, let's make it easier to read and comprehend. If the illness gets worse as expected. Yeah, physician certification requirements, what doctors need to certify. Just so you know, I don't always agree. If you've watched previous videos, I have Grammarly Pro. I don't always agree. Interdisciplinary care team, it says care team from different specialties. I'm keeping this mainly because when they're interacting with hospice, you need a starting point, because if I say this, in the hospice, any hospice team uses these words, there's going to be, what does that mean? So I'd rather stick with that. That's my thought. So here the example that they gave, and I really appreciate that. And then target audience, it said it was, did good. And then the consistency check, which I was so glad on, it stopped. This is part of the issue. You did not complete the requested task. I gave it where it stopped, and it didn't give me the references, so that you're aware this is part of the issues with AI. Disclaimer, educational entertainment purposes, but getting to the education part, every AI out there will hallucinate. They will also have false memories. They may say, this is a problem, you go fix the problem. You upload the fixed version, and they'll bring it back as if you never fixed it. It's like, you didn't read the whole thing. Go back and read it. And then, I'm sorry, you're right, I didn't read it. Let me fix it now. You have to know the expected output. You have to double check the output. Don't take it at face value. AI is not God. It is not all knowing. It doesn't replace a human being. Yes, I'm sharing it here. Here's a way to have somebody, if like you don't have a human being that you go to, but be aware and double check. So it got to the consistency. I'm glad that it didn't find any issues. It did bring out something that I was wondering about. I was actually, when I was doing the references for the book, I kept trying to go to this.org, and it kept sending me somewhere else. And I'm like, is it hacked? Are you kidding me? Did they get hacked and nobody catch it? And I didn't know that they changed. Now, as my excuse, I've shared with my viewers, my wife and I moved here to Kentucky late November. And even though I would adore, love, appreciate a day shift, genuinely part-time, so we're talking 8 hours or less, I'd even tolerate 10 to a degree, including travel time, hospice work, I shared in Kentucky, part-time PRN is 12-hour shift minimum. And most places acknowledging the brutal reality of that, it's typically 13 to 14. I've not been working in hospice since this took place. So I was guilty. I didn't know. So it said, I need to make that change. Appendices are good. I had 60, I didn't count. I had four, all I knew I had 4 pages of references at 66. And then it recommended the additional references. And it actually found a problem with one of my references. So we're getting to the problem shortly. So here, I had that in there, but I did it as this versus that. So it already said that I cited it, it just wasn't cited in the best manner. So I was so grateful for that, and then it added some other things as well. So and then every area different priority, and we're coming to the end of this shortly. And just say if you get this book, if you buy it, I do appreciate that. And if you promote it, I appreciate that as well. Um, I did not add it as a footnote. I found a different way to share the same information um, without making a footnote. But in terms of coming to a conclusion for today's video discussion, you're a self-publisher. Number one, know the audience you're targeting, know the reading level that you want to achieve, know the goals. And there should be 2 to 4 goals. I'm not saying you can't have a book with only one goal in mind, but the better books out there, my opinion, at the end of the day, you do you, me do me. The better books out there will try to achieve 2 to 4, 5 might be pushing it, but multiple goals. I wouldn't create too much of a laundry list. My thought process, one of the persons I admire, Shelley and Adam Henry of the Amity Group. Shelley's mentioned one of the reasons she appreciates my books is they're very targeted. I don't try to do this. This book is about time management. This book is about mastering hospice eligibility. This book is about documentation. And I have 18 other hospice books for hospice nurses out there, 22 for caregivers. I'm working on the 23rd and so on. So everything is tightly focused. And she said that really works versus having like a Britannica, the Encyclopedia Britannica, which in a way a book series is. Um, so, but once you have that, you can use tools. I like Perplexity because I can go down here and I end up liking Anthropic's Claude model. But I have tried it, by the way. You could put in best where it'll pick, whatever might be the best. Keep in mind what it thinks to be the best. I've done ChatGPT 5. Thinking just makes it do more thinking research. The Max can't afford, that's $200 a day for the Max. I have the Pro. If you don't have the Pro, you're able to use the majority of these except for Max, but you're limited by how many times a day. I typically use the regular search, Pro enabled. Deep research, rarely. I like labs, like when I mentioned we're on the landing zone, but like when I talked about my breast cancer awareness, just doing research on health awareness topics, that's where I'll go and do the Pro. You can select where you want to get the research from. The globe is the internet at large. The scholarly hat, the graduation cap, means I want academic answers. And then I only attached the one book. And then you could use dictation. So landing strip, You have tools in below, in the comments below. I shouldn't say in the comments, in the description below. I will include a link to the books mentioned. I will include a referral link for Perplexity Pro. You're not paying anything more. You're just helping me out if you say, hey, this is a good thing. I'm going to get it. If you have any questions, please put in the comments below. Non-judgmental channel. I appreciate you and thank you for your time.